Hi, welcome to the IAF Oceania Road to Geelong podcast. I'm Carolyn Smith, and joining me today, I have Samantha Wittenberg. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. It is great to be back with you.
Yes, we've had a little 10-minute chat, and now we've got a much more spacious time to
Mm.
discuss your area of facilitation. So I'd just like to start by asking you, tell us a little bit about where you're based and the area of facilitation that you work in.
Thanks. Okay. I'm in central Victoria in Castlemaine, and I work with parents and carers of neurodivergent children, basically supporting them to overcome stress and overwhelm and live more fulfilling lives. So
Wonderful.
I do one-on-one coaching as well as group processes and workshops.
Lovely. So
Mm.
what first drew you into that field, Samantha?
Well, I have my adult daughter is autistic, and I had a period of my life where I didn't know what autism was and what was going on. So I felt very alone during that period and very confused. And so that is what motivated me to create groups and a community where other carers can come together and share their experiences and feel supported and feel and carers tend to feel much more isolated than the general public and carers of neurodivergent children in particular because of there's a lot of behavioral challenges, social challenges that mean that carers can often be, um, isolated and stuck at home. Children don't want to go out. So, community is really one of the most vital aspects of well-being for carers, well-being, self-care, yeah,
Mm.
mental health.
Yeah, I think I mentioned last time my grandson is autistic, and I noticed that with my daughter-in-law who is at home with him. He goes to school part-time. And that's definitely been a challenge and a wonderful experience when you find a community because their behavior can be different. So being with people who understand that is just wonderful. So,
Exactly. Yes, you need that
yeah.
non-judgmental space. And I'm working with someone at the moment who's got a very young child, like kinder age, and he can't tolerate kinder. So she has none of that usual connection with the other parents, and so she's really, really homebound.
Mm. What do you find the when you bring people together or when they join your community, what do you think is some of the most valuable parts of being in community? You've already mentioned the isolation. Are there other things?
Yes, yes. Well, sharing resources, because now we're lucky there are a lot of resources out there, but actually hearing from somebody about a resource or a therapist that they've tried is really, it's really useful, helpful. And mostly it's sharing stories. So, I call myself a storyteller, and I really want to bring out the stories of caregivers because they are, in many ways they are superheroes certainly in my eyes. And sharing stories is something we have done as, I mean, all facilitators will know that, that's something that moves us, and anything that moves us is going to motivate us as well. And yeah, so hearing other stories of it also normalizes, as you were saying with your daughter-in-law, it normalizes what people are going through. So there's a sense that there's nothing, this idea that there's something wrong with me or I've messed up as a parent, that gets thrown, you get evidence that that's not true because you're sitting in a group where everyone's having similar experiences. And yeah, so that is I would say that's very healing.
Mm. Yes, it also reminds me of a friend who has an autistic daughter, and that has been a really hard thing because people can't always pick up that she is actually autistic. And so there's a lot of, I know she's experienced a lot of judgment as a parent, as opposed to my son and daughter-in-law who have two children. So the neurotypical child is the sort of reassurance that it's not your parenting. So I imagine that's quite a big thing for people. Have you noticed any changes in the time you've been working around how other people perceive or accept people who are neurodivergent?
Yes. I mean, it's just, there's so much happening now in that space. So many different groups. I mean, yeah, in Australia is where I'm based. So I see new support groups, new organizations, advocacy organizations, coming up all the time. I don't even know, maybe 10 years ago you would have been able to name them all, like now you can't.
Wow.
Um, so that's really wonderful and positive. And I can't remember what was the question. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. It was
Okay.
just around what changes you've seen, like whether there's more, I guess it's that more awareness, more acceptance. There's definitely more awareness, I think, in the New
Yeah.
Zealand as well.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So, what keeps you curious in this work, Samantha?
Um, And just going back to that question as well, it's like everybody is kind of recognizing that and sort of coming out, unmasking because and having that permission to unmask and say, yes, yes, I am a bit weird, I am a bit eccentric, I am a bit quirky, and feeling more free to express those things. So ultimately, it doesn't matter what whether you're neurodivergent or not, but we all want to be accepted as our authentic selves and be able to express our authentic selves. When we suppress our authentic selves, whether that is, I want to be, fiddling with something all the time, or I might have, sounds I want to make, and I've been told not to do that, and it's not acceptable, that leads to serious mental health challenges if I feel I'm not okay the way I am. So there's just this, I feel that in our society there's just more and more acceptance of people doing things differently. And I really celebrate that because I've always felt like I'm a bit weird. And yeah, so I'm celebrating that.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you mind explaining a little bit more about masking?
Yeah, sure. So masking is hiding certain behaviors that we've been told, or children have been told is not okay. So mostly that's, stimming, which is self stimulation in the sense of that's what regulates me.
Mm.
So it might be Um, it might be flapping hands, that's quite a common one. And then, or facial expressions, or not having um, facial expressions, and then being told, no, this is how you need to look, this is how you need to present yourself to other people. And you need to look them in the eye. All of those things are masking. So we're
Mm,
doing something that doesn't feel natural, and that's actually very draining on our energy.
mm.
And it can be like me, I speak quite loudly, and then if I'm constantly trying to moderate that and thinking, oh, am I speaking too loudly, and how is that for other people? We get into this whole a people pleasing kind of thing. And it's a very fine line though, because I have some people I work with that are so loud that it's actually hurts my ears,
Mm.
so there is a place for learning, what, we need to get along together. So we need to consider each other basically.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a fine line. It's like um giving someone the message that there's something wrong with them, as opposed to teaching that, when you're in a social situation, this is what people expect. And I don't know, giving people autonomy and choice around, if you'd like to have friends, you kind of need to, there's certain things that, I need to work with this a lot in with my daughter. This is what friendships involve. There's a mutual, give and take. And yeah, she really struggles to understand the concept of, or she has a very, very different idea of what friendship is. It is so far out of my realm of understanding, and I need to accept that and work with
mm,
that.
mm. That's really interesting. Yeah, I love the way you describe learning ways that we work and be with other people rather than, you can't do that because it's wrong or yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is like you say that fine line because even neurotypical people, we have to moderate our behavior when we're with people,
Hmm.
other people compared
That's
to
right.
maybe what you might do at home. Yeah, so I love that flex. What do you think for facilitators they can be considering to help create a space that's not causing neurodivergent people to have to mask the whole time?
So yeah, there's the service acronym which I shared with you,
Mm-hmm.
and we can share that in the notes.
Yes.
I would go to that and go through that. Those just as a checklist, making sure that um you're, as a facilitator, you're covering all these different aspects. So the service is an acronym, and I will just talk about a couple of them if you'd like me to, Carolyn.
Yes, please. Yes, that would be great.
Okay. So the sensory is a really important one. So what is it's the needing the right kind and level of sensory stimulation. So look at sound, the quality of sound in the space, and the volume of the sound. It should be clearly audible but not overwhelming to people. Similarly with fragrance, smell, natural smells are generally way, way better than artificial smells and perfumes. And avoid any art. Like people often have these one of the worst things I think is these glass jars with these really artificial perfumes in them, and then they have the sticks sticking up
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
disperse the smell into the environment. That it can be physically painful for people. So
Wow.
they're not going to be able to concentrate on what you're presenting as a facilitator. They will just be completely overwhelmed by whether it's the smell or the sound, or the visuals, like the visual sense of, if the space is very cluttered and there's distracting signs and words around the space, then what you're sharing as a facilitator is just not going to be heard, and
Mm,
it will be very hard for people to fully participate in that space.
mm, mm,
So that's a sensory thing. And then I would say a lot of the service acronym covers things that are sensory, like what kind of equipment you're using and the visual, as I said, the distractions, the clutter, avoid distractions, clutter, and having zones. Yeah, that's another really important one. So depending on your space, you can have quieter zones, less sensory input zones, and that can be a part of a room or it can be a whole separate room that people feel, yeah, they can go and take time out and just recharge their energy.
mm, mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful. I think you also mentioned when we spoke before that it can be good if there can still be like live streaming or something so that people might be in a different space, but they can still feel like they're contributing.
Exactly, exactly. And to have that space very close to everything that's going on, so people don't, it doesn't feel it feels accessible. They can pop in there and pop back and they still feel included. And
Mm,
what's also important is that there's very clear directions to that space, clear
mm,
signage, and perhaps that, every facilitator, for instance, at the conference starts their presentation with, naming that there is the space and anything else that's relevant to inclusivity, accessibility for
mm,
people in the room. So just naming that. And then as you did with me the first call, is you asked, is there anything you need to make this experience more enjoyable for you, or to make the space feel more safe?
mm,
Um, that probably needs to be part of every presentation that a facilitator does.
mm.
And not everyone's going to feel comfortable to speak up. So
Yeah.
perhaps there's a way, where people can write it on a piece of paper and then just hand it up, or an app on the phone, or a Google form on the phone. So you've got a few different ways that people can actually express what they need, like, and can do it anonymously if necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, I do try with workshops to I'll send an email with a bit of an explanation about what to expect in the workshop, if there's particular questions that we're going to be asking or exploring, because I'm also aware of people who may be introverted, not necessarily neurodivergent, but some people
Mm,
like to have time to think about things. And I will
exactly.
invite people to let me know if there's anything in particular that they need to make it, an enjoyable and inclusive environment. I think something else I've been doing is just at the beginning of a workshop, making it clear that everyone has the autonomy to do whatever is necessary for them to feel included. So if they need to move around the space or they need to take a
Yes.
break or that's something else I've thought about, as well as giving people options. At one time, I would have said, we're all going to do this, whereas now I try to say, I invite you to do this. If that's not really comfortable for you, here's another option. So, yeah, so I'm curious about whether those you think those types of things are useful. I think using fiddle toys, so I have quite a collection now of different things
Right.
that I put on the table that people
Mm.
can, squish or turn or whatever. So I'm just curious whether those types of things are helpful for facilitators. Are there other things that we
Absolutely.
could be doing? Last time you mentioned
Yes.
light, which I thought was really interesting, trying to make sure that we have natural light.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
and being really aware of clutter or how the space is, whether whatever you're introducing is going to add a load on the senses. So make sure that you're not introducing things that don't need to be there. I thought that was a
Yes,
really
that's right.
powerful thing to think about, Samantha.
Yes, because that is all information that has to be processed. And then there's less energy for other things. And yeah, I love that idea of having the fiddle toys. It's a very visual, it's give like a visual permission to people to actually, fiddle and make their needs known. And yes, saying things ahead of time instead of relying entirely on the participants to speak up and say, I need this or that, actually naming those common things up front is a really good idea. So yes, if you need to move around the space, if you need to sit on the floor, having different kinds of seating. Now I saw in the autism specific school, they have they have chairs that like they don't have legs. So the chairs are right down on the ground. Um, yeah, different kinds of seating and different options, as you say, different ways to presenting things in different ways according to different types of learning. And I think most facilitators have learned about the different ways people learn and making sure that you're incorporating all those options in the
Mm,
workshop.
yeah. Yeah, I also understand that quite a lot of autistic people have PDA, which is not it's to do with this need for autonomy that can come
Mm-hmm.
across as defiance or resistance. It's actually to do with
That's
how
right.
things are posed to them. Is that
That's right.
something that is
Yes.
useful for facilitators to be aware of, Samantha?
Yes, yeah, I'm reluctant to generalize, and I think that by the time an adult is sitting in a workshop, they have understood themselves well enough around PDA, that they probably um yeah, have enough self-awareness to get that the facilitator is not making a demand.
Hmm.
Um, but as you said, it's like inviting you to I invite you to do this rather than nobody likes to be lectured to or told what to do. Like that's universal. Autonomy is such a big need in humans and it's very healthy. So yeah, just making sure people have choices. But what you're talking about is using declarative language instead of demand language. So yeah, just noticing the way you phrase things and getting feedback from people as well. Did that
Mm.
sound like a demand? Like, yeah, just getting feedback.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that has been very helpful for me in my facilitation journey, getting feedback.
Mm.
So what's a moment for you in your work that reminded you why you do this? Is there a moment that comes to mind?
There is, and it's happened quite recently. There's a woman from Kenya actually connected with me, and she has set up a school for neurodivergent children there. I think she's got about 20 young people, and the stories she's been sharing with us about what happens to neuro. She's also in a rural area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the stigma and misunderstanding around neurodivergent children, and she is working to change that. And I have just been so so humbled and so intrigued by what she's doing. And if anyone wants to support her, what she's doing, one of the things she does need funding for is she provides supplements, and she finds that nutritional supplements are making a huge difference to how these children are showing up and how well they are, because their diets are not, they're not great. They're not. There's not enough variety. And yeah, so having her come in and share her story as well of being neurodivergent, growing up in a very different culture and being so misunderstood and yeah, that's a moment that's comes to
Oh,
mind.
yeah, yeah, that would be really powerful. If you want to share, so we'll add, if you share a link, we'll add a link into the post
Mm,
with a
yes.
website. Is there a website that she has?
I don't think she's got a website, but there's definitely a link I can share. Yes. Mm.
Great. So thinking about the work that you're involved in and coming back to facilitation, what do you think the future of facilitation looks like from your perspective?
Well, I think the things that we've spoken about, really, that's going to become more just the norm. That spaces are going to be more and more inclusive, accessible to different brain types, and that people will be more open and vocal about what they need. Um, so yeah, how far will that go? I mean, I guess that, it's part of diversity, and and learning, all of us becoming more compassionate and empathic as we learn about different types, and that when
Yeah,
your brain's working a certain way, you don't have a lot of control over that. So yeah, being non-judgmental and yeah.
nice. Well, thank you, Samantha. That's 30 minutes has flown by, really.
Okay, wow, yeah.
So I really appreciate you sharing again with us. And for
You're
anyone who's
welcome.
listening who would like to know more about IAF Oceania, as well as our upcoming conference on the 14th to 16th of October in Geelong, go to our website facilitationinaction.com.au. And if people would like to connect with you, Samantha, where can they find you?
I have a website, samwittenberg.com.au, and LinkedIn or Facebook as well, or Instagram. I'll
Great.
share those, all of those.
Thank you. Well, thank you again,
Yeah.
Samantha, and we look
Thank
forward
you,
to
Carolyn. Thank
hopefully
you.
talking to you again in the future.
Mm, yes. Or see you at the conference.
Yes, that'll be lovely.